The food service, hospitality, and retail industries are evolving in ways you've never heard of until now. Hosted by global industry technovator Rob Grimes and powered by the IFBTA, Tech Bites is your go-to podcast, putting technology innovation and trends on the menu.
So Rob Grimes with Tech Bites and the IFBTA, and we are actually in Nashville right now, getting ready for about 6 weeks of solid travel. And it's been like quite a week here, and I'm with Chris Keating. And Chris, you're the president of the events group within Informa Connect, but actually you're more than that. You're somebody that I've worked with for so many years on FSTEC and a number of different things. So I just thought, getting ready for FSTEC Asia. Yeah. Yes, I just said FSTEC Asia. Now, if you don't know about that, you're going to know about that in a minute. But it really is part of the whole theme of technology that flows within Informa and all the different groups. But actually, Chris, it's in a lot of the conferences and things you're doing. And we're here at Create, and tech is all over this. So how's tech fitting into everything that you're doing?
I mean, it starts with FSTEC, which is 30 years old now and has experienced incredible growth in the last few years. Restaurant Leadership Conference, we're seeing so much tech growth. Create, this event is for emerging restaurateurs, really that fewer than 100 units. And so it's everywhere, obviously. And I think as we look at our growth, two things are important to us, technology and international. And, the Global Restaurant Leadership Conference we're bringing back next year to Barcelona. And we really started looking to the Asian market and the power of the FSTEC brand. And when Informa acquired Winsight last year, it gave us something we didn't have before, which is a huge global company. And Informa already has a show in Singapore called FHA HoReCa.
Well, actually, they've got about 20 or 30 shows, I think, within Informa markets all across Asia, but also Brazil,
Saudi Arabia,
in the hospitality industry, because I think it's like 450 events in the portfolio.
Yeah, it's the largest event company in the world, and we do everything from Comic-Con to the National Restaurant Association show. But yeah, we do food and food service events literally all over the world.
But when you look at technology within the events, the one thing that I notice all the time is, even in the U.S., when you talk about restaurant leadership or you talk about Create for emerging, there are so many tech vendors that are here. There's so many that are at RLC, at each, and then of course, the National Restaurant Show, the Tech Pavilion, that it's really playing, it's not just about FSTEC because it's enabling pretty much everything across the board that you're talking about here.
Yeah, well, look at how the audience at FSTEC itself has changed over the years, right? If you went 10 years ago, 20 years ago, the vast majority, almost all of the attendees were IT department, chain IT. Probably starting maybe 5 years ago, the number of IT attendees dropped under 50%. It's still the largest group. It's like 48%. But now you're seeing operations,
But what's an IT attendee, right? Because it's an ops person, it's a chef, it's a marketing person, it's finance.
We're all technology people.
And technology is enabling, all these. So let's talk about FSTEC Asia. Yeah. So, FSTEC obviously is a brand that's near and dear to both of our hearts, that's here. And yet it's coming as a conference that's alongside of FHA HoReCa, which is the equivalent of a National Restaurant Show in Asia. It's about 30,000 attendees in Singapore, and it's the 22nd to the 25th, Friday, but FSTEC is the 22nd to the 24th. Yeah. Why bring FSTEC to Asia? Why bring it to that show?
So I like to joke, there's this sort of cliche of the person with a movie idea pitching their idea to the movie studio. It's Godfather meets Back to the Future. To me, this event is FSTEC at the National Restaurant Association show in Singapore. And it's those all, if you can picture all those three things, that's what this is. We're providing the tech component to a show that's been historically more of a food show. And, when people think about APAC, they think often extreme technology, sophistication. And that's true in some places. It's true in South Korea. It's true in Singapore. It's not necessarily true all over Asia. And so a lot of this attendees, there are certainly, you're going to see folks like Starbucks there and real technology innovators, but a lot of folks looking for technology solutions who maybe are not as far.
Right.
And for FHA HoReCa, it's a great marriage where they have the audience, they have the venue, they have the whole show going on. They didn't really have the technology component. So we're getting married together, and we're going to bring that We're essentially a large breakout session within this event. There's 3 components of FSTEC Asia. There's the breakout session, which will be running for a few days, and you're helping us out with that, and you've brought some wonderful speakers to us. There's a show floor, sort of like the tech pavilion at the National Restaurant Association show. And then there are some receptions and evening things.
Right, so it's really about the networking and the education that's there, except that the audience that would come to the FSTech part, which is in the conference center, by the way, which is connected, is going to be a pretty good mix of regional audience and IT people, and some of the speakers that are there. I mean, even from the IFBTA board, Zarek Pearson's there from Five Guys, and
speaking as well.
But McDonald's is speaking. But also, it's about regional, global, and local. I think because if you take a look at the mix of the conversation.
Yeah, one of my favorite fun facts about the restaurant industry, I say it all the time, is it's the only major
It's a good place to eat.
industry. Well, there's that. It's a fun industry. But it's the only major global industry where the top, if you're talking about the restaurant chains themselves, the top 20 companies in the world are headquartered in North America, right? So 19 US and Tim Hortons, Canada. It used to be 30, though. It's changing, right? So now you start to look at chains number 21 to 60, you're starting to see chains from the Philippines, from South Africa, from China. That's changing. Of course, the U.S. chains are going.
Well, it's a lot easier, actually, again, not technology for technology's sake, but it's a lot easier for somebody to expand globally today. They may have 3 restaurants. There may be somebody here with 3 restaurants, and all of a sudden they show up in Dubai, or Singapore, because the technology is enabled to allow them to do that.
That's right.
But actually, it's also the cooking tech, and it's the other pieces that somewhere in your portfolio, you bring them all together that enable that to happen.
Technology is not just software, right? It's everything.
So as Chris mentioned, the IFBTA is both supporting FHA HoReCa as well as FSTEC Asia. There's a number of reasons why, besides the fact that technology is global and so many of our members and people are interested, members being both suppliers and operators are interested in that. But also, years ago, actually, we did participate in HoReCa.
Right.
And here's what people don't know about HoReCa and FHA. So FHA traditionally has attracted actually 60% on the lodging side and 40% on the restaurant side, but it's all really about food and beverage.
Right.
And it's about food and beverage. But food and beverage becomes an even bigger thing when you go into Asia, and you see so many companies that are actually in both sectors, the lodging. But there's one other thing. Why
that catch-all term, hospitality.
Hospitality. Well, hospitality, it means lots of things. But I learned in taking a look at this what HoReCa actually means. It means hotel, restaurant, and cafe.
Yeah.
And so not catering, but cafe. And so it brings all those industries together.
Yeah, when you ask people what HoReCa means, you might get hospitality or a hotel. you always get restaurants for the RE, but you'll get catering. But cafes is such a huge business.
Well, cafe is a huge business. As a matter of fact, it's one of the sectors within FHA. Now, they do have a section there. They also, by the way, have a seminar theater on the floor. So while the larger subjects and a little bit more deeper dive is being done at FSTech, on the floor in the right within the pavilion is a stage, and they're actually doing a Hospitality of the Future seminar there, sponsored by a lot of the hotel associations.
Right. Yeah, it's Tuesday, right? Yeah.
Well, it's a couple of days.
Okay.
And then on Friday, the Restaurant Association of Singapore, which is supporting us, and their president, by the way, their current chairman is the CEO of McDonald's in Singapore, who's going to be one of our kickoff.
Right.
We're actually going to do a tech camp there on Friday, so that people who are just coming onto the floor do it. But why Singapore? So Singapore is absolutely a tech hub. If there was one place to take FSTech into Asia, it's going to actually be Singapore. It's the best launching pad, actually, that there is.
Yeah, it's the ideal place, and we're fortunate to have Informa has a team there. They have offices there. They do events all over the region.
They do technology events, by the way, in a different division, but they do technology events in there as well.
This is a very established event in the region. We're new, but this event is not new at all.
Absolutely.
We've had hundreds of people register already. We're expecting pretty big crowds, and we're setting the room for, I forget, but close to 300 people.
Right, but people will come and go because there are sessions and it's over multiple days.
Yeah, it's different than, when we were building the program, we said, this is not like FSTEC where over the course of a couple of days, you're largely going to have the same people coming to the general session. We're going to have different people coming different days.
Absolutely. I think what the difference is in expectation is that what we are doing is bringing a very important highlighting of an important subject to the region, but we recognize the region does have the global players and they do have the regional players, and it's not all from the US. And even when you're working with the global players who have their regional representatives, of which many are participating in this program, they're able to talk about what the differences are. And I think somebody said East meets West, interesting concept there. But what I find is a lot of the technology actually comes out of Asia and ends up in the US, like delivery and things. So it's interesting.
Yeah, I think in a lot of parts of the world, some things that American operators were, in some cases, a little reluctant to adopt, like contactless payment and things like that, sometimes were adopted earlier in other parts of the world. The pandemic made that delay no more, right? So, in the years leading up to the pandemic, you started to see greater adoption in the US. It exploded after, right? Because all of a sudden, you could not be on the sideline for remote ordering and contactless payment and delivery and all of that. And so that's caused us, really, it didn't start something, but it really accelerated some trends.
Well, you have just pointed out one of the differences actually between how technology is viewed in the Asia Pacific area and how it may be viewed or where we stand. I used to tell people that the software came from North America, the hardware came from Asia, and we would take our software. So I was on a call this past week getting ready for this with the Restaurant Association, and they have a new director who came from digital. And we were talking about subject matter. And he said, Rob, you don't actually have to explain to people there that they need to use technology because it's ingrained in their culture. And instead, rather than showing them what they should be doing, which we do spend a lot of time highlighting that here, he said, what we need to do is really explain to them, how do you take all that data? How do you take the digital side and take it to the next level? Because it isn't about them deciding to adopt it. It isn't about explaining at a conference like Create, where it fits and what they should be looking at. They have it. And so I think that one of the differences in our sessions actually is going to be talking from many different aspects about the practical use.
Yeah, I refer to that sometimes as sort of the fourth wave of restaurant technology, right? The first was literally cash registers, say 100 years ago, right? Then nothing happens for 50 years, and then the great POS revolution is really what launched, coincided with the PC revolution, kind of launched FSTEC.
Absolutely.
Then things were quiet for a bit, and then came what I think the third revolution, which was stakeholder-facing tech. So guest-facing tech, employee-facing tech, executive
But the mobile devices really made that happen, right?
Exactly. That's why there was sort of quiet for a while.
And by the way, look at where some of the most popular mobile devices are actually built and made.
Exactly. And just like the PC revolution launched the second restaurant evolution, the iPhone did the third. And now I think it's the data revolution now. It's like, there used to be this line that the restaurant industry is the biggest industry that doesn't know who their customers are. That's changing, Obviously, they still don't always know. Sometimes maybe the third-party delivery partner knows, but that's changing. And we're seeing it with guest enhancement, products, loyalty, right? All this is changing.
It really cuts across all of it. And it isn't a single answer. No. There's many different technologies. I think that, by the way, that is some of the fun and why I would encourage anybody that sees this, even if you are not operating in the region, but you have partners and people that are, you should send them this, because sometimes you see and get good ideas or a better use of something by going outside of your normal world.
Absolutely. Just like chefs like to travel to cool food towns to see.
Well, we're going to be doing some of that while we're in Singapore, right?
We are going to see.
We have to do that.
Just like chefs do that, I think technology, what's the right term? Pioneers.
Absolutely. Double-decker restaurants with drive-thrus in Singapore, the C-stores there in Singapore, the kiosks, the touch, the robotics, that are there. Some of those things are just, it's a hotbed.
Yeah. There's going to be some innovation that happens elsewhere that could be applied maybe to the U.S. or wherever you are.
Okay, so if we've piqued people's interest and they haven't already registered. So I know FSTEC Asia FHA.com or FHA HoReCa. But how does one just register? They just go to the website and...
Yeah, so you have to register for FHA HoReCa itself. And so if you're a registered attendee of that event, which is free to attend, then you can register separately to then you essentially RSVPing to attend.
So to be clear on that, if they go ahead and they register for FHA, is there a second registration then that they need to do for FSTEC Asia?
There is. You'll need to be badged separately because remember, there's 30,000 people at the big show. There'll be a few hundred at our part of it.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like they're...
And you can do it on site. We're going to make it because we know that among the 30,000 people, there are people maybe who hadn't prepared to go to FSTEC Asia and now like, oh my God, there's this thing here. Like, we can't guarantee seats. We're going to be, it's going to be a good crowd. So you get there early for the sessions you want to see. But better to do it ahead of time. Better to pre-register for both things ahead of time.
And by the way, I'd point out that ahead of time, we're 2 weeks out.
Yeah.
And so it's a good time to just get that in and certainly contact the IFPTA is certainly looking forward to participating. I'm looking forward to helping you co-host and moderate some sessions.
10 days, I think we're hopping on our planes. Yeah.
10 days. Yeah. Well, 10 days, except there may be a little trip to the UK in the middle.
All right.
But it should be a great event, and I would remind you that there are networking events that are tied to it. There is a celebration of technology on the Tuesday night, the 22nd. There will be a tech camp on the 25th, and then FSTEC Asia will be full days on the 23rd and the 24th. And if you haven't signed up already for FHA or FSTEC Asia, you should.
All right. Excellent.
And we appreciate greatly the partnership and support of yourself and the Informa team. And by the way, it's amazing to hear how much you've learned about tech over the years here.
I grew up in technology. I spent 19 years doing tech events, and I was the director of the Computer Security Institute, fun fact.
I sort of forget that.
And I had to learn about the restaurant industry when I got here 15, 16 years ago. And it's funny how the two have come together now.
They do come together. And so we hope that you'll join us as well. We will both be there, by the way. So we hope you'll join us as well at FSTEC Asia and FHA HoReCa. 22nd to the 25th in Singapore at the Singapore Expo Center, and we will see you there. So Rob Grimes with the IFPTA here with Chris Keating with Informa Connect, and we'll see you in Asia.
We're going to get back to Create, and I'll see you in Singapore in 10 days. So
great.
2 weeks,
thank you for joining us.
Take care.
Thank you.
Right, bye.
This podcast is brought to you by the International Food and Beverage Technology Association. The IFPTA is the industry's voice of food service, hospitality, and retail technology, all put together. We provide thought leadership as your single, impartial, and go-to resource. The IFPTA offers in-person and online communities to connect with your peers, the exchange and all-encompassing global technology resource, and an industry-wide professional education and certification program. The bottom line is the IFPTA is your place to gather, learn, and share in conversations like the one we're having today. So thank you for joining us on this episode of Tech Bites powered by the IFPTA. I'm Rob Grimes, your host, and I look forward to taking our next bite of technology together.